Aprendimos a quererte desde la histórica altura donde el sol de tu bravura le puso cerco a la muerte.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Yo, I come from me in the stand. I'm in the field and you just sit in the stands. Take that bass out your voice. If you ain't got no gun in your hand, I do what I want. And you don't even do what you can, you do what you told. I got no love for my foes that can mimic my delivery and copy my prose. But what they can't comprehend is how I stick to this code. It's either in you or not. It's not the kicks and the clothes. They ain't cut from the same cloth, can't come from the same loom. Fit in similar shapes or even sit in the same room. Confusing authenticity with part of the costume. I'm teaching gifted children, you can't come in this classroom.
Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Welcome back to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 28. Brother UC. I'm about to say UC. UC.
Give me a new nickname right here.
Yeah, brother doctor, good brother doctor, Yusef, Bunchy, Shakur, Cherie Danielle, Geechee, y'all. What's up? How y'all feeling?
Feeling all right. Can't complain. Well, you know, I always can't complain in a capitalist society, but keeping my smile on my face, you know.
Well, I'm fed for a nerd, good people.
You traveling? I saw you just got back from up the road.
Yeah, I was out in California, Pasadena. The film was featured at the Black August Film Festival, so that was exciting. And then went over to Inglewood. I can't remember the name of the bookstore. They had a Black August event, so that was dope.
Nice. Yo, we want to welcome everybody in the chat, even the people's rewatching. Welcome to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, which is a podcast or show, however you want to see it. CMBs, Community Movement Builders, and we are giving you some radical Black politics according to our vantage point. I'm here in Atlanta. Cherie is in Atlanta. Yusef is in Detroit. And we're here at Black Liberation Media, the home of all the radical dope shows, all some other dope shows on here. And we know home of the most radical chat. And since y'all so radical and y'all want to be so politicized, maybe you should share the link to some people. So y'all can engage in this second episode or the second of the series of Yusef documentary. But before we get into that, what else y'all had going on this weekend or this week? And some good news, bad news, indifferent news?
For me, I guess the good news is we've pretty much solidified a place to do this show, this night of cultural work that will be happening the first week of October. So next week we'll have the official announcement. So I'm excited to be making progress in that. Still feeling a bit overwhelmed with all I have to do, but it's exciting. And yeah, yesterday we had a pretty good meeting at our with CMB in Atlanta. We were able to connect with some other orgs like BAP and what's the other one? The People's Campaign, or is that what they call it? Yeah, the People's Campaign. Yeah. So that was interesting.
And Fire Ants was up in there too.
And the Fire Ants, yeah, it was in there strong. but yeah. So yeah, it was good to do that yesterday in Atlanta. It's always good to kind of see where other orgs are at as far as the organizing. So cool.
No, I definitely relate to that. So when I went to the Black August event, it was like a nostalgia of walking in and just it was a different, bookstores nowadays are becoming more fancy and trying to trendy. This was like a throwback. Some of the orgs that you named had representations there. So as people was preparing for the event, there was some political dialogue going on, multiple space. So and I'm just like a fly on the wall watching. And one brother was like, "Man, you trying to get in this dialogue? You trying to jump in?" And I was itching, right? And I jumped in, but it was just being in that atmosphere. A brother from BAT, we talked afterwards. He was enlightened me to what's going on in LA in terms of them trying to make that the central place for the sports, this sports arena that's that's amplifying the intensity of oppression that we see out there on Black immigrants, other immigrants, and just across the board, which it's like Cop City, gentrification, all these things meeting one in this area. It was that was dope.
So look, man, we want to get into the second part of the documentary, and as we get into it, as we said, we're gonna come off the screen. We're gonna play it live here. It won't be available for the rewatch, but you can come back and see the video with that edit out and have a conversation with us. And all three of us will be in the chat while we are playing the video. So we'll be doing some real live conversation in the chat. But Yusef, you want to kind of like set us up for what the documentary is, what we about to watch. Obviously, we watched the first part, but what we watching here?
I think at this stage with the beginning of the transformation. So the title of this episode is "Transforming the Black Criminal Mentality." Conrad George Jackson made that title very popular in Blood My Eye. I think a lot of times at this stage of where we at, we see activists, we see organizers, we see scholars, but we don't see the process of transformation. How do we end up there? And so this section of the documentary, it gives you a glimpse and takes you on that road. Transformation is grown out of our political development. Political development is part of reading, but the examining. Our analysis has to come out on our own lived experience, which helps, inspires us, and shapes us how to do the work that we want to do. So this is where the stage we at. In particular, landing where incarceration has been instrumental, unfortunately, on Black America in a lot of ways. And that question of post incarceration, it gives you a glimpse of that, particularly through my life. Because many of us ask the question of why my father keep going back to prison, or why my brother keep going back to prison, or my sister. So it gives you the dynamics of not why you go back to prison, but how we can counter that.
Yeah. So
all right.
Cherie got it queued up. Go ahead and large screen, hit it, and then we'll be right back.
And every boy wants to be like their father, and here's an opportunity to be like my father in a positive.
Boom. Yeah. So yeah, let's kind of hear some thoughts, Cherie. I know again this is your first time watching it. This part 2. Maybe share some reflections. Yusef, you could also share reflections, then we get into some questions and conversation with everybody.
Yeah, I was tempted to finish watching last week, but I was like, let me get like kind of a live, like fresh reaction for the show. So it was good to see kind of like, how it all wrapped up. I mean, knowing you from the podcast and everything, I guess I had an idea of where everything landed, but just kind of seeing like, I guess even that battle while you're still in, like I don't even think about, I guess, those things of like coming from an environment, then being incarcerated, and then because of the way the system plays out, you're likely to be incarcerated with people that have caused direct harm to you, and you were so close in contact with somebody that really did cause direct harm to you. So it was interesting to see like kind of that struggle, because I didn't even really think of that. I think, in my mind, I'm always thinking of like, the prison shows and how it's like this person from that background, this person from that background. And, they all come from these different worlds and they're all in prison trying to figure it out. But, I think I never even thought of like somebody that might have actually hurt one of your family members and like being incarcerated with them. So, that was heavy, I think, to think about that and how you had to kind of rationalize that forgiveness, you know, because you knew like kind of in the end, like, and I think that's the hard part, I guess, with stuff like that, you know, I can only assume is that, you know, I guess on the streets, you kind of are used to being able to kind of like, you know, I guess this eye for an eye or like revenge thing or like, you know, hurt people, as you always talk about it. But I think you kind of realize that it wasn't really worth like the cost when you're already getting, you know, you're already in the situation and, you know, getting, you know, denied parole. And then just already like, you know, it just doesn't bring the person back to like, you know, go kill their person or whatever. So the person that killed them. So I think, yeah, that was heavy, but you know, I just to put myself in your shoes, that was a lot to think about. And then yeah, just seeing how, you know, yeah, your journey just evolved and how, you know, it was just coming out and just even seeing Detroit and seeing, you know, just kind of like those, you know, very like desert places. Cause I feel like, you know, even the times I went to Detroit growing up to visit my grandma when she was still in Detroit, you know, I feel like we would pass like kind of some of those areas where it's just like, why is there nothing there? Like, you know, like where's the people? Where's the store or something? Just like you just see like abandoned building after abandoned building. And, you know, you put this thing about like a third world neighborhood or something. And it kind of is, you know, yeah, really like that is what it feels like because, you know, it's like still, you know, how I often view third world countries is very much countries that have been strategically attacked by the U.S. And so then I think about a third world neighborhood within the U.S. I'm thinking of a neighborhood that has been strategically attacked within the U.S. Because of racism and capitalism and all, you know, all the stuff above. But yeah, so that was, you know, interesting to see that too. But and I'll wrap it up. But yeah, I think, well, I guess I'll wait till I ask one of my questions. But yeah, those are some of my first initial thoughts. My bad.
Thank you for that. I mean, so my reflection, I tied into, you know, again, we just showed the film in Pasadena, and it was like 7. I laughed because we just showed in Detroit in a community forum, and I was like, man, it was like 7 Mexicans in the room, at the viewing in Pasadena, and one of them asked that question around the forgiveness part, right? And like for me is like that's how deep transformation should go. I'm no better than any other person. I could have resorted back to old behaviors, but that's where transformation kicks in, or it challenges you all, because transformation is about transforming your humanity, but also transforming my humanity was about also like I'm trying to get other people to forgive me. I may have not murdered anybody, but I damn sure have done some sadistic, crazy type stuff. So it was the reciprocity in that. Now, was me and old boy best friends? Was we eating cook up and noodles together? No, not by no means. However, and you know, in prison, you've had guys who try to kill each other, become very close friends. I mean, that's the dynamic about oppression, where it takes you out of that mentality, and you like your closest friend could be the guy that you was beefing with. And it could be, you know, your ally, and it's just a strange things and dynamics. But for me, I tie it to transformation. But also, I stand on your path. Cherie was in the documentary. So this is a new version that we've done. And in this version, we go down the road of my son's mother getting killed, and really, you know, grappling with that, and also my son, you know, and grappling with that dynamic and things. So I think that get missed in the conversation of being incarceration, being a father or a parent, and you know, what does accountability and parenting looks like.
Yo, so I again, every time I watch it, it's fresh thoughts and eyes. And in fact, I was backstage trying to set up an event with you and Baba Imhotep in Baltimore, and see if we could do a live viewing and discussion in Baltimore, try one in Detroit, and then maybe even come down to Atlanta, or however y'all want to flow with that. And then even so, it's a couple things that I think about, like by all means, undeveloped or underdeveloped intentionally underdeveloped, because underdeveloped is a tactic or method that the state and those in power do. I always kind of like struggle, and I know y'all was kind of talking about that in the chat with like the concept of first and second and third or whatever world country, because again, the U.S. heavily narrates that, right, at and before the Cold War, and it's heavily focused on economic, what seems to be economic development, and what also talks about like GDP. So, and then even some people talk about social systems, and really like the values is just rooted in U.S. like propaganda. So one country has this highest GDP because they have to buy everything, and then the other country has healthy social services where they don't have to buy a lot of things, and them having a high GDP will say, oh, they're like a developed first world country, and this one with a low GDP is third world country. So I think that conversation always kind of needs more a dialogue. But even before we get there, as you think about the conditions of Detroit when you was there, I want to kind of back up. And sometimes when we watch documentaries or movies, or journalism, you get like a snippet of something. So everybody get a snippet of like you and your pops and captured together. But like I'm more focused and curious, like what was like the day-to-day interactions or the environment like with y'all in the same space, like your cell, his cell. How much did y'all interact? How did people kind of engage with y'all? Like as much as you can share and remember, like what was some of those, and even in the first and the second time that y'all was together, but like what was like the like typical type of interaction and environments and how people engage y'all as father and son?
So the first time we was in a maximum security prison. So those that don't know, you're on lockdown 23 hours a day. Only time that you get to come out is to chow hall, yard, different restricted activities to like law library, gym, things of that nature. My father and I was in different housing units, so we began. I think about being enslaved in prison is a form of slavery, enslavement. So you have to be strategic how you're talking, how you're engaging. And I want to draw that analogy to help people to see it clearly. And so him and I would go to the law library together or to the gym. So we would spend time talking there, and then we would on our way back to our housing unit walk very slow and get in much conversation that we possibly could. But a lot of during that period, like he already painted a picture of me through his letters, and then and seeing it, I saw the reflection of the seriousness of who he was in the letters. But the guys who had done time with him there in other prisons, they just reinforced everything that he said or who he was. And so it was through them that I was nurtured. Like they protected me, they loved me, they loved on me. And that was out of respect for my father. And so the second time, which was a very short time, but it was very magical. We was in the same housing unit. Again, when you're in prison, you get pictures from the streets, and you have a photo album. So I brought my photo album. He brought his photo album. We did cook up a noodle together. Like we're breaking bread, and everybody's looking and they're in awe because my father's a very stay to himself type of guy. So they like, who is this young guy, this young brother that Baruti talking to, right? I'm not a fish at the time, but I mean I'm not. I'm known, but I'm not overly known. So I mean, there was those who knew and others who wondered. And then we got up that morning. We went and worked out together. So my father's a runner. He runs like a goddamn deer. So he like, let's go run. And I run a mile with him, and I stop. I'm like, dog, you're not about to run my tongue into the ground. And then after he did that, it was this exercise. It's like on the pull-up bar, so you can pull yourself up and then do a push-up. So at that time, I'm like a $130, maybe $140 at the most, cut, rip. But it's the way you do that exercise. It's like a technique. You got to pull and push up. My father can do it. He just didn't know the technique, and so it prevented me doing something. Like I had it was like me getting back on him when he was trying to outrun me. And then we went to play basketball. He beat me like 2 points. I elbowed him. And what I'm describing is it was a father and son interaction. It just happened to be in prison. You know, the love, and then we finally got the word over the microphone. You know, the 223-605 roughly report to your office or to your housing unit, and they telling me that I'm transferring, which is pretty much so it's like a big ass plantation is divided by gates. So where we was at is a level 2, then there's a level 4 and a level 1. I was going to level 1 because I was close to going home. At my gate, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said that they can keep the lion caged, but the cub must go free. When the cub goes free, part of the lion goes with him. So even my father's still in prison 40 years, you see my father in me because I'm a reflection of him, of his determination, his grit, and his knowledge.
Wow. Sorry. Needed a moment for that. That was deep. Okay, I guess one of the questions that I think I had, I guess I just kind of wanted to put some thoughts around I guess because I heard kind of in the documentary a lot of the time you're kind of talking about transformation from like a thug or transformation from like a nigga or you know and all this stuff. And I guess I don't know, historically, I guess for me coming from like the middle class and stuff and knowing kind of how bourgeois people or petty bourgeois, however you want to classify, will sometimes be like, oh, those niggas, you doing nigga shit. I kind of don't really like, you know, I mean, obviously all of us say that word, but I historically didn't really like to hear Black people use it in that context where they're saying, that's a nigga, we're Black. And like, you know, kind of this like uppity thing in a sense. But I think hearing you kind of describe it, because you were more in a situation where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a nigga. Now I'm a, you know, organizer. Now I'm for the people or whatever. You know, it's different because you're actually talking about a life you lived, whereas opposed to I'm used to hearing Black people that never had to deal with certain circumstances be like, well, they are niggas, but we're Black, and you know, and it's kind of like this divisive thing. So I guess I was just curious on like, you know, like the choice of wording, I guess, with that, and I guess. Yeah, just kind of how I guess it differentiates somebody actually living through something versus somebody that, you know, may not come from that background, kind of being like, well, those people over there are niggas and we're not, you know, or yeah. Oh, I think it's on mute.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting into class dynamics within new African people, and Franz Fanon talks about it very clearly of how we internalize our oppression. And I struggle with this, and it's just diving deeper into the word nigga. I struggle with it. I try to make a conscious choice, decision not to use it. I don't know if you guys ever read the book, My Grandma's Hand. Are y'all familiar with that book?
Mm-mm.
It's a deep book, but a brother, his grandmother was a sharecropper, and so her hands was puffy and whatnot. But he, as a child, he remembered how those hands comforted him and made him feel warmth. And so he reflected on that, but he talked about the emotional trauma that we carry in our bodies. And reading that book, I was already kind of there. And so like I could say one of you guys are like, what's up, my nigga? You all right, my nigga? And then go around the corner like, fuck you, nigga. And thinking about that book and thinking about that word, because when I say what up, my nigga, it's just basic. But when I say fuck you, nigga, that's coming from the depth of my stomach, with all every ounce of hate, this disregard, and it's so easy. Like you can snap from what up, my nigga, to fuck you, in a snap of a finger, and that's part of that internal bondage of being trapped in self-hatred. And that's one reason, like, trying to get away from that word, because of the triggering. Like when I was first time I went to Africa, in Ghana, like the white person in me began to come out. And what I mean by that is like, where we was living in, it was a village, but it was like a modern day house or whatever. But I was like, hey, can we go here? I mean, the shit that you like. I would criticize somebody in here in America about, like, I'm operating in there, and I realized like we got that sleeping whiteness and that sleeping gin in us, and and it comes out, and that's the part about transformation that we have. We tend to not realize transformation is an ongoing struggle, and transformation reaches its highest height in community. It reaches its highest height in community, not in isolation. It actually dies in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Oh, he's talking about the N word, because you know how Amber's always like, what it do, niggas? That's what Leia's talking about. She's like, this is she just saying. Maybe Amber should listen to the conversation. She always be using what it do, niggas on Black Liberation Media.
So I'm curious, like, as you think about and I know, you know, people you lost people coming in and out of prison, but there was, as you see, a lot of young brothers, and I'm pretty sure older brothers as well, look up to you, and then like you come back to do this community work, and I hear the frustration and like, yeah, now I'm changing my life and doing the thing, and then niggas ain't trying to show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like it's been trying to, or transitioning people from you know, as Jay-Z say, from the streets to the game, or from the streets to the movement? Like, have you, like, yeah, how do you feel about it? I don't even want to know how many people or whatever, but I'm just like curious, how do you feel about, like, they seeing a positive Yusef, but like you want them to see a positive, but then also might be get into some more radical shit or more movement oriented shit? Like, what has that been like?
I think in terms of our setback of our movement has reduced us to individuals. Even our organizations, they operate as individuals. So even in your questioning, which is very prolific, people relate to Yusef the individual, and Yusef the individual. I mean, so as we kind of chat in the chat, where like meeting Grace Lee Bars and like Grace challenging me when we build our political relations, like your next phase, Yusef, is to build an apparatus to move for folks forward. I think this is part of the gap in that, and coming home to now you have to, like, I'm active, but then, you know, I have to be a father to my son, have to be a mother, son to my mother, or brother to my sisters. There's personal relationships that I'm getting involved in. So all these things are happening all at once, while also, you know, you have this political consciousness. So like my progression was like in this parallel world. To some people, I was Joseph in the workplaces. Then to others who knew me in prison, I was Yusef. So and then at some point in my life, it all merges one. Like, I'm just Yusef. Joseph is behind me, but then there's the community work is merging, and my little homeboys and just people in general, they respected me because also they know, like, I'm a transformed man, but I ain't with the bullshit either. And so it was finding that balance, and part of that balance is finding an organization. Since I've been home, I've only been part of 2 organizations, Black Soldiers and Community Movement Builders, because like I've been in the game before, so I ain't trying to just rock with shit just to rock with shit. And then also, I mean, I've never been the one to try to create an organization. I mean, I slightly at one point when I left Black Soldiers, Soldiers of the People, but it's like, it's easy to create one, but do we actually need another organization? So how can we stay in the ones or join one that already exists? And these are things I wrestle with, but I think my answer to your question is, to rebuild our movement is to rebuild organizations where it's more about our organization and our political lines and less about a Yusef, and Yusef representing that political line, to be able to pull young brothers and sisters in where they don't have to go to prison to experience to be like the guy behind me or like me. That does not have to be the road. And so we have to create the opportunities for transformation to happen equally on this side. And as we talked about last week, transformation also is not necessarily everybody's coming from the hardcore street side. Like Cherie told me, some of us come from middle class. Like it's there's a variety of oppression and the dynamics of the Black experience that we're coming from, and we all should get to the road of transformation.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking more when it comes to transformation, I guess, and then even hearing just about just the overall, like when I'm thinking about like anti-self-hatred and accountability, and I'm thinking about these things also after watching the I don't know if you saw the Amanda Seals versus all the
Yeah,
black conservatives, but I watched a review
somebody just told me about it yesterday, so
yeah, the review crew. I really watch them kind of, break it down and respond to it. But I'm thinking about that. And often, you had like a lot of the black conservatives talking about, we have this toxic black culture and we're, where's our accountability and this, that, and the third. And you would think, like I said, that there's just nothing, no groups out there around like in the actual. That's what you tell these people aren't really like community oriented, obviously, but like there's just no such thing or no groups of people that are doing their best to be self-determined and to within the community build I guess a sense of accountability as you got out of prison were doing when it came to like being able to talk to youngins and talk to people that were actually on the streets and kind of tell them about other ways, this, that, and the third. You would think that just doesn't exist based on the black conservatives. But even with that, I know that there's still, it was a bad format, but I'm just thinking in general, some of the things that a lot of the right wing will kind of say, I feel like this documentary kind of goes against a lot of their talking points. So I guess, what I was just trying to ask as far as like your goals when it comes to like, because I know a lot was talked about as far as accountability, being accountable, for your community, taking care of your people and all of these things and then that's that feeling of still wondering, am I doing enough that you talked about at the end? Because I guess it's like, you can come out, you can change, you can organize, you can be an organization, all these other things. But, I still wrestle with even being new to being radical. It's like, well, dang, am I doing enough? But then obviously there's only so much an individual can do. So I don't know. I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
And I'll just add to that real quick. We're living in the beast of capitalism, exceptionalism, things of that nature. Again, like what you share about your aspiration with your poetry, your writing, that the complexity. Like, hey, I would love to be featured, star-studded. Like that's that, and there's nothing wrong with feeling that, right? And same with myself, writing my book. I think it should be a bestseller. But how do you find the balance in being an American and our political ideas? And then there's folks, sharks, who are trying to pull you in. And I've been naive, and there's nothing wrong with being naive, and that's part of being human. But these are the complexities. And so like this is what that part where you talked about me in the film, me being vulnerable, me being open, because like people come to me and like it was like, you the leader or you got all the answers. Like, no, I'm not. I'm still learning how to lead myself, let alone lead your ass. And I ain't got all the answers. I'm still trying to find but because our people are so desperate for leadership that we accept any fucking thing.
Yeah. So I wanna ask a question that dips back in the past a little bit from being captured to now, right? So you mentioned something about like the hearing parole, and then I'm looking at like how all over the country, but especially in Detroit, like the parole boards are pretty obviously racist, right? Black men and women and non-gender conforming people don't get the same type of parole access as white folks. Mm-hmm. And so two things. One, was there a struggle or conflict with parole when you were in? Do you work on or talk about some of the parole conflicts now? And then also, if the parole said the reason why Black folks aren't allowed parole so much because they need to decrease their militancy, and you say like, well, I'm coming out to be an organizer revolutionary. Like, was there a conflict with parole and you being able to communicate like what your intentions of being and doing once you get out?
I mean, again, I think the intensity of the struggle inside a prison is what it was. I'm pretty sure I was known by the guards, but also same thing. I was a regular average guy too. I think that's part of the transformation. Like I wasn't into the bullshit, the nonsense, and my first 6 months I had like 10 fights. From that point on till I came home, I only had one fight. So I was a nerdy guy from that point on. So those, the guards respected me because I respected them and I respected myself. I stayed out of their way and they stayed out of my way. But when you're dealing with the parole board, you're meeting Whitehead Jimmy at the belly of the beast, where the power that they have over you and how the system, because you really pretty much you got to do more time to be eligible for parole. And so, because also they have what was called a parole guideline score, and it was one of the most systematic racist things ever. And it gives you, and it scores you on multiple ways, and it's taking into account your case and what you went to prison for, and which you can't change. So it's pretty much like you being tried all over again. So my first 3 years of seeing the parole board, I was denied a parole because I got a negative 19 score. So they slid the parole denial under my door. It wasn't until like my fourth time seeing it, I was able to see him in person. And then my fifth time, they finally granted me a parole. So it was just about enduring. And then at the time, like I'm knowing George wasn't by no means a George Jackson inside of prison, but I definitely was organizing and political. But also the reality with George teaches you that you might die in prison because of your political beliefs. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. I guess another question that I had that I guess that, I was just curious just to learn a little bit more about. Like I know you lost your mother a couple of years back, and then I know you also mentioned, obviously losing the mother of your son. And so I'm just curious because I know we've talked a lot about like, masculinity and patriarchy and sometimes, I do wonder as far as like when radical politics are introduced to someone in a prison system and they're still like, surrounded around, like men, like I'm always kind of curious how that evolution to kind of like addressing patriarchy comes. And I'm curious, I don't know if it came more from just things that you realized with you and your mother or things that you realized as being a father without having the mother present. I guess I'm just curious about like how that overall came to be, because I guess prison to me always seems like you're in a constant, having to fight for yourself, like in like a macho state or whatever you make it. So I just always wonder how it gets to the point of like, okay, let me address like, the failures of patriarchy in a sense,
That during that time when I was in prison, it wasn't the topic of conversation. You're right. It's a very hyper masculinity environment rooted in patriarchy on all levels. Through political struggle, political reading, that I began to understand the nature of patriarchy to some degree. And mind you, I'm 20, 21 years old, Conrad. Like I remember, so we can talk about another show like my Conrad Quasi. They were starting what was called the Black Panther Party prison party or something like that. So they recruited me in there, and we wrote a statement why we're not sexist. And that was like our initiation, but it was again learning from the machoism of the party, but we still hadn't formulated things. I don't remember it was during that time or afterwards, I got a pamphlet or the essay by Sophia Bakari when she writes about the sexism in the party. So that was like my journey, along with some things I was reading in the party, and it just continued to grow and evolve into where I'm at now.
Gotcha.
So it's been almost 3 years since your beautiful mother left us physically. But I'm curious, what has she taught you in the past 3 years? Because I know them lessons keep coming.
I think just being the grit, the determination, I mean, my mother always would say, like, you know, you kill him with a smile. So like my reaction, my gut feeling to things is want to knock a motherfucker out or smack a motherfucker. Like that's just how it was and raised by my mother. And so that lesson that I'm reminded of, you know, killing with a smile. And that's what I'm gonna learn to practice every day.
Yeah. So one question too. Whenever you think about like, especially as at that award ceremony, and they're like, you know, activists, and I know words have been changing, but how do you define yourself in terms of that? And then what are you okay or not okay with people calling you, like activist, organizer, revolutionary, radical?
So I have a simple answer to that. I can't only be a revolutionary. Ain't shit changed about that. But being a revolutionary, like, so every revolutionary is an activist, organizer, educator, and advocate. But not every advocate, educator, organizer, activist is a revolutionary. And I say that often, but I don't necessarily know people understand what I mean by that. It's like, so when I became a revolutionary, that is committing to a mind state. That was part of my transformation. So you can be an activist, but it doesn't mean that you have the mindset of being a revolutionary. Because being a revolutionary means you're committed to a political ideology that you've embraced and that is governing your life every day and that you're working to get better at. So that's where not all activists and revolutionaries are equal or the same. Because again, you can be an activist but don't have a ideology by no means. You can be an organizer but don't have an ideology by no means. So when I say I'm a revolutionary, and being an organizer is how I exhibit being a revolutionary, because you have to adapt, you have to engage, you have to find the methods how to do it. And so for me, being an activist and organizer are just methods to being a revolutionary, particularly in this time period where being a revolutionary is more outlawed than it's ever been, because, and it also is very misconstrued, because we have a lot of people who have misrepresented that framework to our community.
And so I guess when it comes to the actual community work, I guess I'm curious because I understand, you know, you kind of transformed into an overall revolutionary, but I do wonder, you know, without kind of the specific transformation that you had, what has been the I guess struggle with getting people that you're actually organizing within the community to have like revolutionary politics? Because I know it may be like one thing to kind of be like, okay, you know, let's do this for the kids back to school. Let's do this to bring us together as a community and eat together and not be violent. Or let's, you know, talk to this brother to make sure, you know, he knows that there's other options than like selling drugs to your people and this, that, and the third. But I wonder, because you were able to transform, like I said, to full-blown revolutionary, what is the struggle to get people to take those steps, but then also to actually radicalize them? Like, you know, because someone may be like, okay, I don't want to sell drugs anymore, or okay, I want to help out with your bookstore, but that, you know, obviously doesn't mean like, okay, now they want to be a revolutionary or now they're radical. So I'm just wondering, like, what has that struggle been like?
I think the greatest struggle is the delusion that you're not oppressed. So that, as a result of that, it's not sustainable for someone to be able to be on that pathway, because at the end of the day, I got to go out and feed my family. And so until we figure out how to address that, like when in the 60s, 70s, and 50s, you know, the capitalism has always existed, but the inflation is not what it is today. You know, folks lived together. There was more communal dynamics that they've created. So being in prison, you know, like when you talk about racism, it's not something that's just far fetched. You see the hatred in the guard's eyes. You feel the motherfucker the dragon breathing on your neck, that he's a blue-eyed beast. And out here, you know, we don't really have interaction with the police in that manner on a day-to-day. We know what they could do to us, will do to us, but at the end, we can go back into being niggas, so to speak. And so until we can keep pump it up until where and we also had to make revolution more fashionable. But it's like people think T.I. is a revolutionary, people think Killer Mike is a revolutionary, and so it's so fucking confusing. And then you got the Umar Johnsons, and you got the what's it fundamental blacks now, and I think they've done more damage to us than we've ever have experienced in a long time. And that's why I'm so hard on CMB from that standpoint, and other organizations that I respect, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement and a few others, that we really had to get our shit together.
So you're watching Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 28. We are talking about the second part of Yusef documentary. And if you are rewatching this, you might don't see that documentary because we took it off. So if you're trying to watch it, you probably can watch it now, but not later. Yusef,
I was gonna say that let's those who let's think about it in a couple months, whatever. Let's bring it back. I think the people really. So the audience we debated. We was like, man, should we do it? But people get what you say, Geechee? Was they
their attention span?
Yeah, attention span.
Yeah.
Which is all critical questions asked. And so we tested and we saw people responded. So if folks really liked it, not only this documentary, maybe something we can explore other things. Because again, education and political education is finding other ways how to reach people.
So last question. And I want you to make sure that you drive this home, because when we think about mutual aid and again pulling people in the struggle and having like a particular analysis about what's happening, we know everybody from Nino Brown to Charlemagne, they do book bag giveaways and turkey drives and stuff like that. How would you share with the people like this is not what that is, this is something else, and then maybe even a larger goal or accomplishment with that?
I think again the greatest accomplishment I got on helping organize the backpack event, one of my comrades who came home, he had been home for a couple of years and he experienced it 1 year. And he was like, man, this is the Black Panther Party in one day, right? Because we both was shaped and influenced and inspired by them. The free breakfast program is, again, everybody's trying to duplicate that along with myself. And that's what the backpack event is. But I mean, there's that but is where Huey talks about revolution pending survival, something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, right? I think we have to remix that. Revolution has to be pending upon transformation. And this is what the backpack event is, introducing transformation. You're right. Everybody's doing backpack, everybody doing turkey giveaways. But the way we do it, like the backpacks, you get that at the end. You gotta experience the whole fucking thing. And that is a moving experience from having your kids you feel comfortable enough to let your kids just run around and just experience. To love on each other. That's when we talk about that's what made like the party so attractive, because they talk about love. And I think we tend to have gotten away from that point. Like, we got to love ourselves enough, because we don't love ourselves. That's when the nigga come out. The nigga is going to act a fool. And that's how the love helps. But that love is part of that transformation. So the backpack event is intentionally designed thing that happens in a very depressed, oppressed, repressed area, and showing that we can be human beings in those areas. And the being human beings is not that we accept our oppression, but like we realize that we're oppressed and that we got to do something. And this is a tool to be able to, this is just one mechanism that can lead to multiple other mechanisms if we organize.
Listen, David is funny. I know we got to go. Even the job turkeys is giving out turkeys. But so I know we got to go, but if you had to ask us one question or pose one question to the audience after we watch 2 episodes, we've had a conversation, what will be a question you would put back in the table for us to either chew on now or in the going forward days?
I think what is the importance? How do transformation play play itself out in our struggle.
Good. So listen, we could keep that conversation going in the chat, or we could even chew on it now as we wrap. I think that rhymes. Bar. But yeah.
When you dropping your album, man?
Man, listen, bro, I can't do it though. My shit is on SoundCloud.
I can't.
No sound.
I might put you on my mixtape. I got one.
Nah, bro. I don't want to be on your shit, man. My shit costs $200 a feature, bro. Chill out. Hey, man, what y'all got going on? I know we about to bounce. I just want to say bye to y'all and peace to everybody. But what y'all got going on before we wrap up?
Man, just trying to get better, man.
Word. Cherie, what you doing over there?
Same, trying to get better. Like I said, I got a busy weekend ahead. I got to get this Eventbrite going and playbill made and advertisements for online going. So I'm like, whew, it's a lineup of stuff. But, and then also my actual work with the survival program, which we're trying to make better and form it into community mutual aid. We're doing on Sundays. So we're trying to incorporate more visual things of our politics. That'd be the first step to try to make it an experience of, similar to what Yusef was talking about with the backpack giveaway. Because we're trying to make our survival program more of an experience for people that, for the community want to actually be involved in what we do and understand our politics. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that on Sunday. And yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with me.
Oh, well, I ain't doing nothing but resting. But there's a few other things that we got going on with with some work here. So just looking forward to those things. And I guess we're gonna see y'all next week, same time, same place.
Peace up, A-Town.
Peace.
Vienes quemando la brisa con soles de primavera para plantar la bandera con la luz de tu sonrisa.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia.